So Laal Singh Chaddha.
क्या पता हमें है कहानियाँ हैं कहानी में.
Yes, it is a huge monumental uphill task because doing a Forrest Gump remake is a very big deal. It is like India's Lagan in so long. Forrest Gump is Tom Hanks won the best Oscar award for it, and Tom Hanks became America's sweetheart after the film. And well, India went straight up and they got Amir Khan to play that role. Did he do justice to that role? Opening shot of the film, conversation in a park bench. He talks with different strangers. They've adapted it and remade it to where Amir Khan is sitting in a passenger seat in a second class non-AC train compartment and he's traveling somewhere. But in a middle class sleeper train, it's very common to have strangers just strike up conversations and keep talking. So that worked. And the way they built up in the English version, different strangers coming on the park bench and getting more interested. In the Indian version, it was the cliche, but it works. So it's fine. It's how one person gets interested, then two more persons get interested, then the entire compartment is listening to him. It is a typical cliche used in Indian cinema, but it is cliche for a reason. Rupa versus Jenny. Characters are very different. Jenny has her own arc in Forrest Gump. She goes on, she becomes a hippie, plays in various restaurants. She goes through an entire identity crisis. She has strong opinions. She's very against the system. Rupa, on the other hand, a bimbo who does not know what to do and she just wants to make money. Which kind of makes sense too, because a lot of Indian women in that time, I guess, when growing up, and the ones who wanted to really become big in life didn't really know much or what paths existed. I felt like it was a little a letdown for having Rupa's character not showing a lot more, because they could have exposed so much more of how the actual underworld went down and how the 80s were in terms of underworld and cinema and how it went hand in hand in glove, and cricket included. Her portion just seemed like a love interest portion, which was kind of fucked up. It just seemed like Amir Khan needed a love portion, so hey, here's Kareena Kapoor. But bottom line, between the entire love story aspect between Jenny and Rupa and Gump and Chaddha, I, as an Indian and for Indian audiences, I feel like it was a good adaptation in terms of how the story went. Because Jenny is just a heartless bitch. She just keeps fucking off without a good reason. But Rupa actually had a good reason. She was looking out for Chaddha because she knew that he will get caught up in her mess if she came to him and married him before. Next up, we obviously have the most obvious iconic portion of life is a box of chocolates, and my mama told me that you never know what you're going to get. That is Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. Here, they're equated to Golgappe. And Golgappe is a very Indian emotion to equate. I think that was nice. It's okay. They cutely packaged all the Golgappes in Haldiram's box, and then he had one water bottle, and they also had one reasoning to why he had that water bottle separate. So that was all well done. Tom Hanks' mother owns a huge estate, and she makes into an Airbnb, which is why they have the insertion of famous characters like Elvis Presley comes and stays with her, and that's one of your Easter eggs. That also has been cleverly remade here. It's none other than Shah Rukh Khan. We have Laal Singh Chaddha doing one of Shah Rukh Khan's greatest dance moves, and Shah Rukh Khan.
அவர் கேட்டதுனால நான் அவருக்கு என் டான்சிங் ஸ்டைலை கற்றுக் கொடுத்தேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த பையன் பெரிய ஆக்டர் ஆயிட்டாங்க.
Yeah, running is a huge part of Forrest Gump. So Run Forrest Run is one of the most iconic lines of cinema that has become Bhag Chaddha Bhag or Bhag Lal Bhag. Yeah, it was Bhag Lal Bhag. It was done well here. I honestly felt like the American version, it smoothly flowed a lot better. Even the scene where he's running from his bullies and he breaks the shackles, it was done a lot more better in Forrest Gump, because you could literally see it in Jenny's acting. She's literally scared for his life. She's like, run Forrest run, run Forrest run. Here, it's just like these bullies, avanga muncha paatale, it doesn't seem very scary. They're just like a bunch of chutkus who will not do much. The graphics has been done really well. The comparisons, the shots are all the same, so the music also elevates it. But what led up to that scene was not that great. Yeah, after this, of course, you have your major ones, which is Baba. Baba is an important part in Forrest Gump. He is the best friend, and he represents so much in the simplicity of life and focus, having just one direction. Baba, all he could talk about was shrimp, and here we had Naga Chaitanya playing that role, and all he could talk about was, well, Jettigal. And Naga Chaitanya has definitely done a good job on it. But it's still nowhere close to Baba's just raw hilariousness. Lieutenant Dan is someone who is a part of Forrest Gump's team, American Army. That is a really interesting change which the writers have done, and I have to appreciate them for that. In the Indian version, he becomes the opposing camp. A Pakistan terrorist leader becomes the same character here. And they've used this character to beautifully show how in India, God only causes conflict. And that they've tied really well, and I think that's an underlying thing for Amir Khan's most films, like how in PK he has showed, the hilariousness of religion. The same way here, they made the character of that Pakistani terrorist leader become one of Chaddha's really close friends and made him see from internally how brainwashed he was. So that again is a huge tick to the writers. The test of God, where the protagonist has to prove himself. In Forrest Gump, it's a huge like gut-wrenching sequence where they fight the storm literally and they come out victorious. Here it's just the Pakistani major just looking at all of them, staring at the screen, and they're like, oh, idea, let's just name it Rupa West, and then because of that, it starts selling. Forrest Gump, a major reason it was a hit was because how it ties a lot of political and real life incidents into the film. But in India, it seemed like they just had all the historical events just to fill in that gap of like, oh, we have to showcase historical events. They just used it for timeline. There wasn't much involvement of Chaddha with the events. Like he'll just be running past him and in the background these events are happening. He's not in the foreground. Forrest Gump, Jenny literally says the words, Forrest, you don't even know what love means. Which is why it's such a heart-wrenching scene when Forrest looks at Jenny and is like, Jenny, I may not be that smart, but I know what love means, and then he just walks out of the door. Here when Laal Chaddha is just saying that I'm not that smart, but I know what love means, and he just goes out, it didn't have that much of an impact because they did not have the scene where Jenny is saying you don't know what love means. Because come on man, Jenny has to be a little bit of a bitch. Only then do you understand the two sharp ends of character. Here both of them are just very nice. Rupa, someone who's literally been in the underworld, so she can have so many layers, so many stark differences in character. Overall, Laal Singh Chaddha clearly did not do very well in the box office and is obviously nowhere close to being as big a hit as Forrest Gump was. But it is a decent effort. So yeah, Laal Singh Chaddha is, I would give it a rating of, I think, say 6 on 10.